Hey everyone, Ethanator here with Horizon Hobby, and today I'm very excited, and you probably know why because you saw the title of this video or the recent announcement from Horizon Hobby and Blade Helicopters. But what is widely regarded as the world's best first ever collective pitch RC helicopter for beginner RC helicopter pilots just got even better with the announcement of the Blade Revolution 235 CP. Now, the all-new Revolution 235 CP is an updated and upgraded version of the very popular Blade 230S Smart. And if you're familiar with the Blade helicopters, then you probably know about the 230S. Originally, this was the best first ever collective pitch helicopter, so a lot of people enjoyed, a lot of first-time RC pilots enjoyed. It was a solid and forgiving platform, very durable. However, as time went on and electronics got even better, Blade decided to essentially upgrade all of the electronics in this platform, which turned into the Blade 230S V2. And again, as smart technology was introduced and electronics improved even more, Blade announced the Blade 230S Smart, which is the helicopter that you see right here. And up until the Revolution 235 CP, this was the current best first ever collective pitch RC helicopter. It taught a lot of new RC helicopter pilots all kinds of maneuvers because it could go upside down due to its collective pitch design. But on top of that, with safe technology, you could essentially fly this helicopter like a fixed pitch heli, which made it a great first ever radio controlled helicopter for people wanting to get into the hobby. And that is why the Blade 230S Smart was widely regarded as the best first ever collective pitch RC helicopter, because it allowed people to get into the hobby, but its flight envelope allowed the RC pilot to grow into 3D maneuvers and essentially stay with the same platform and not have to get a separate collective pitch helicopter. It almost acted as a fixed pitch heli for beginners with safe technology and grew with the RC pilot into a 3D machine. However, as RC technology further evolved as it does, it was once again time for Blade to update and upgrade its 230S helicopter. Now, instead of putting in new electronics into the original airframe, Blade decided to completely redesign and revamp this airframe to make it more modern, more capable, more durable, easier to work on, all of the above. And that's what you get with the all-new Blade Revolution 235 CP. So in this video, I'm going to be directly comparing the Revolution 235 CP to its predecessor, the 230S Smart, so you all have an idea of what has been updated and upgraded in terms of both the electronics and also the airframe, and why the Revolution 235 CP is a shining example of what is widely regarded as the world's best first ever collective pitch RC helicopter getting even better. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get on into it. Alright, so with the canopies off of both helicopters, you can see that the main frame on the Revolution 235 CP is completely different from the 230S Smart. Now, the main reason for this change in the airframe, or the two main reasons I should say, is one, the servo geometry has been completely optimized and modernized in order to enhance the flight performance. Taking a look at the cyclic servo layout on the Revolution 235 CP, you can see that the control rod lengths are all even due to the placement of the servo layout. Whereas on the 230S Smart, each servo is mounted differently, and this results in different length cyclic control rods for each servo, and therefore the servo geometry isn't quite optimized to its full potential. Now, this really isn't something that a beginner RC helicopter pilot would notice, or even an intermediate helicopter pilot for that matter, who's just flying around and performing basic 3D maneuvers. However, someone who's really pushing this helicopter might notice some inconsistency in the maneuvers, and this is really due to the cyclic geometry on the 230S platform. Now, one thing that I would say the cyclic servo layout on the 230S Smart has an impact on is its center of gravity. So if you take a close look at the two cyclic servos that are mounted towards the back end of the main frame, this really contributes to the tail heaviness of the Blade 230S Smart. Now, this also isn't really something that beginner RC helicopter pilots would notice until they really start using the rudder and they are starting to do pirouettes. You might notice that the cyclic or the blade tracking on the helicopter will kind of oscillate. A lot of this contributes to the tail heaviness of this helicopter, and in turn, it kind of degrades the tail performance a little bit. And if you go back to the Revolution 235 airframe, you can see that those two servos that were previously mounted into the back of the airframe have now been brought to the front, which ultimately gets rid of the tail heaviness of this helicopter and greatly improves its flight characteristics. Now taking a closer look at the rotor head on the Revolution 235 CP as compared to the 230S Smart, you can see that the Revolution 235 CP has an aluminum head block as well as an aluminum swash plate, and this ultimately contributes to the rigidity and the durability that's found on the Revolution 235 CP. Another significant change in the rotor head is found in the main blade grip control arms. So the control arms are now located on the leading edge. This means that the swash plate will collectively move up with positive pitch and down with negative pitch. Whereas on the original 230S rotor head, the main blade grip control arms were on the trailing edge, which meant that the helicopter would have negative pitch whenever the swash plate moved up and positive pitch whenever the swash plate moved down. Now this is something that is different from a modern helicopter design, as most of the main rotor head control arms are placed on the leading edge side, and the Revolution 235 CP contributes to that modernization by switching around the side on which the control arms are. One thing that's also nice is the flybarless arms are also beefed up significantly for added durability and rigidity. And taking a look at the tail on both of these helicopters, you can see that the Revolution 235 CP has a much bigger tail boom diameter than that of the 230S Smart. Now, the main reason for this is to add to the overall durability of the helicopter, but one thing that I honestly like about the bigger tail boom on the 235 CP is that it really cleans the helicopter up, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. But it also gives the helicopter an overall bigger presence in the air with that larger tail boom. You know, you could kind of see the skinny tail boom on the 230S stick out a little bit. It didn't look as proportional, I would say. It almost looked like the tail boom was a little bit too long for the helicopter, and that's just my opinion. But whereas if you look on the 235 CP in the air, you can really see that this helicopter just looks proportional, and the overall presence of the helicopter is much bigger. Now, what I'm talking about in terms of cleaning the helicopter up is that if you take a closer look on the tail motor mount, you can see that the plastic mold of the tail motor mount on the 230S goes over the tail boom, so it kind of makes it stick out a little bit more. Whereas if you look at the tail motor mount on the 235 CP, you can see that a lot of the mold is encased within the tail boom, so it really gives the 235 CP a much cleaner design in my opinion. And the final difference between the two helicopters is the one that you noticed right away, and that is the scheme of the helicopter. On the Revolution 235 CP, you will see a new canopy along with the change from orange to white on the main blades, tail rotor, and tail fin, along with the change from black to white landing gear. Now, all of these parts from the 230S can be used on the Revolution 235 CP if you prefer the orange color of the canopy and blades or the black landing gear. The only exception here is the orange tail fin due to the change in the tail motor mount design, but stay tuned because an orange tail fin will be available as an optional spare part in the future. And there you have it. That's all of the improvements and changes that are found on the Revolution 235 CP to essentially modernize the airframe on the best first ever RC collective pitch helicopter. Now, with that being said, let's talk about the changes that were made to the electronics that contribute to the amazing flight capability of the Revolution 235. On top of an improved rotor head geometry, the Revolution 235 CP is equipped with the new Spectrum H3056M heli cyclic servos, which are an upgraded servo for increased precision and capabilities. As for the main motor, the Revolution 235 CP features a more powerful and efficient 3400 kV brushless motor as opposed to the 3900 kV brushless motor that's found on the Blade 230S Smart. The last and probably most significant electronic improvement that's found in the Revolution 235 CP is the flight controller. The 235 CP features improved flight controller tuning for better self-leveling performance when switching back to normal or safe mode. And what's also nice about the flight controller itself is that incorporated into it is a Spectrum Smart transmitter file, which makes setting up the 235 CP on your Spectrum computer transmitter effortless. And there you have it. That is the overview and what's new with the Revolution 235 CP by Blade, as well as a direct comparison to its predecessor, the Blade 230S Smart. And it's so cool because for almost a decade, people have been learning how to fly 3D collective pitch RC helicopters with the 230S platform. And it's just so cool to see it evolve and modernize into the Revolution 235 CP, which will definitely be attracting a lot of new generation 3D RC helicopter pilots. So thank you all so much for watching. Hopefully you all are excited as I am to see this updated and upgraded version with the Revolution 235 CP. We'll see you on the next one.